Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. This is actually pretty exciting. This is the first Q&A of the 29th Woods Hole Film Festival. And what a festival it's been so far, day one. So just a little bit of history, a little bit of thank you, first of all, before we start, to our sponsor for this film, Ermine Level Real Estate. So the Woods Hole Film Festival began 29 years ago as a one-day, one-hour event. Over that period of time, it's grown in scope and size such that it is an 8-day event. We normally screen well over 150 films submitted to us from around the world, and we are normally live and in person. Obviously, this year is quite different. In the middle of March, just like with everybody else in the world, it became clear that live and in-person events such as the Woods Hole Film Festival would not be possible to have this summer. We hoped upon hope that that would be the case, but we realized that it wouldn't. And so, working very closely with colleagues from around the country, we had to figure out what to do and how to so-called pivot, the word of the pandemic, from a live and in-person event to a virtual film festival. So this is our first virtual film festival. And I must say that we are humbled and honored by the great response that we've received. We are also humbled and honored by the great films that we have to share with you for this entire week. And so we hope that, that you've seen Give or Take, but if you haven't, you have until August 1st to watch it on the streaming platform. And this is a film that is in competition for both an audience and a jury award. So that means that after you see it, you can vote in the platform. If you've already seen it and haven't had a chance to vote, you can go back and vote up until August 1st, but you can only vote once. Vote early, vote often, but you can only vote once. The final vote counts. So we're going to talk among ourselves for a few minutes, and then we're going to open it up to questions, as Jay said. If you could write the questions that you have in the Q&A, we'll try and get to them as we can. So I'm going to introduce the director and I think your co-writers, if I'm not mistaken, Paul Riccio and Jamie Effros, and I'm sorry if I mangled both of your names. You might want to unmute yourself so we can chat with you. So the exciting thing about this film, and one great thing about having it as one of the first film Q&As of the festival, is this film was shot and made on Cape Cod. So let's talk about a little bit, where did this film come from, and what's the backstory of the story? And I don't know who wants to go first with that. Maybe Jamie, you can. Paul, you're still muted.
I think that at least where the film came from as it relates to Cape Cod is that I think Paul can actually speak to you better because he came up to, he has the history with Cape Cod.
No.
So go for it, man.
No, you know, I spent a lot of time in Cape Cod with my sister Janet and my family. It was the four of us. We would come up almost every summer for probably 15 years since my son was a little one. And, you know, you start seeing all, you know, you come up in the summer and you sort of see that one side of it. And then my sister ended up buying a home up there. And so I got to see Cape Cod in a whole different light when I used to come up in the off season. And that's what intrigued me. And I think it's probably, you know, not dissimilar to many sort of summer communities. You get a lot of people in the off season, in the tourist season, you know, renting homes and things like that. And then you get this whole other side of that, and that always intrigued me. It's such a genuine place, so earnest, and that was the kernel. Just this idea of sort of seeing the Cape. Not for the ubiquitous lobster rolls and you know, ice cream parlors and all that, but the people, the glue that really holds the Cape together, and this idea of this character and these characters just sort of grew from that. using the Cape really as a character.
Yeah, Paul came to me with a lot of sort of imagistic ideas that came from his time up there, and you know, just about the feel of the place, and about this house and this character in this place is kind of a fish out of water, and it all kind of grew out of that.
So were you actual co-writers, or did somebody write it first and then you shaped it together? Talk a little bit about the writing process.
Yeah, no, we co-wrote it. You know, I had the kernel of the idea, and I thought of Jamie immediately because we've worked together on many things, and you start relying. I think the way that, you know, you start relying on people, and you're like, I knew that Jamie was a go-to sort of person, and I'm like, he would be perfect for this character I had in my head. So he was my first call, and I said, would you be interested in writing it with me? And he's like, yeah. And you know, that's kind of an interesting experience, because I think both Jamie and I you know, our history has been sort of siloed as far as, like, you know, you sit there, you write by yourself, and you know, you're not normally working with a partner, and so this was great. I mean, just being able to you know, take a kernel of an idea, and then, you know, Jamie takes it in a whole different place, and then working on that script together. It was a real, it's so difficult writing. So to have a partner like that and have the support like that, it really made it just a wonderful experience.
Jamie, when you were co-writing, did you think you were also going to be the star? Did you write it for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, but not, it wasn't my idea though, so that's okay for me to say, right?
No, I thought of him first. I thought of this guy living in New York, sort of disillusioned by it all and the bullshit of it all, and where he goes back to some place that's real, and he's grounded, and he's sort of like, you know, gets back to his roots, so to speak. And Jamie's the first guy I thought of, and so writing it together, I thought was just the perfect sort of marriage.
Yeah, I mean, Paul came to me, and, you know, as a kind of an actor in New York, struggling to sort of find my way, to have a director that you've worked with come to you and go, hey, I've got this idea for a feature film. I want you to be the main character, and I want you to write it with me. It's like, oh, okay. Twist my arm hard for that, please. It was an absolute no-brainer, and the writing process was so great, because I'd never done it before either. I'd never really had a writing partner on a project like this before, and I think that Paul and I have similar sensibilities and have a similar sense of humor, but I think we have very different styles. So that was it. We were able to complement each other really, really well in that way, and sort of take the piss out of each other, if you will, when things were sort of getting off track, or we were getting into our own sort of habits or patterns, and so the process of it was really wonderful for me too, because of that.
So, as you know, somebody who sees a lot of films, I have to say that I really connected to this, because it felt like I know these people. These people could be living right around here. And I think that's a real testament both to the writing, but also to the actors, who I think did a fantastic job. Talk about the casting process. How did you cast this? And, you know, are these people locals? Are they professionals from New York? Tell us a little bit about that.
When Jamie and I were writing it, and we were writing this character of Ted, pretty much from the get-go, we said, you know what would be good for this role? And I said, you know that guy in Bloodline? I don't know his name. And Jamie's like, you mean Norbert Leo Butz? I'm like, yeah, that guy. He would be just perfect. He's got the sensibility for it. The type of guy where in the same, you know, in the same scene, you want to hug him and also smack him a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where it all started. And that's a great story, actually, because we wrote it and we're like, yeah, we'll send it off to Norbert. He'll, in between winning Tony Awards and doing movies and whatnot, he'll he'll do our movie. And Jamie's actually, why don't you follow that? Because that's actually a really great story. Because that was the linchpin. Norbert getting involved was the sort of linchpin.
I mean, it was such a pie in the sky kind of thing, because here we are, it's both of our first feature. And it's, you know, I basically put out a Facebook message, a Facebook post that said to my theater friends, if anyone knows Norbert or can get us in touch with him, please let us know. And a dear friend, Stephanie Nassif, like, she was like, oh, I'm great friends with his assistant. Well, we can get it right to him. And it literally happened that way. And it was one of those things that we never expected it to happen, let alone like that he would read it after that. And he read it, he got back to us, and it was a hell of a day for the day when he was like, I read this, I laughed out loud 5 times, how do we do it? And, you know, we were off to the races after that. But talk about casting from then on, though.
Yeah, so I always had it in mind, you know, obviously having Norbert on board was huge. Having our casting director, Ann Goulder, she's wonderful. Having her working with us, again, like Jamie said, your first feature, no one knows who the hell you are. So having people like that sort of giving their stamp of approval, you know, really enabled us to get some great talent, and we really did. You know, Sherry, I mean, it's such a crucial role in the film, but it's not a huge part. But, you know, you think about the movie without her and the lightness she brings and the humor she brings to the film, it would be just a different sort of film. Joanne, certainly, Louis Kinsellme, you know, I was overwhelmed by the response we got. And then it was always a point, it was always an idea in my head that a lot of these folks, because I knew on the Cape, I knew and know that they've got great talent up there. A lot of people, a lot of theater folks, and really wonderful talent. And I always knew that I was going to make it a point to cast some of these roles with local actors, or people who at least, you know, made their home part of the year up on the Cape. Because I think it brings an authenticity to it. And I was just, you know, I was not surprised by the caliber of talent we got. Mr. Snow is Gary Marshall, you know, a Cape Codder. Who else? The gentleman who played, you know, the guy at the house who, when Norbert's eviscerating, denuding all of the flowers, Alan, you know, he was terrific. Ollie, the character at the bar, he was wonderful. You know, Dennis Cunningham. These are all local people, and I was not surprised by all that. And also, we used, or I got in touch with a wonderful person named Nick Dorr, who helped me find all these people. And he's a real, he's just a peach of a guy. Just, again, so many people to thank that helped us, you know, put this all together. And Nick Dorr is a huge part of that.
Sure. Well, so I don't know if I mentioned, but this is the world premiere of this film. Another character in the film, which is now leading stars, the Wellfleet Drive-In, now that we're in the pandemic. It is all of a sudden resurging in popularity. But when did you shoot this? And was this, you know, often it's difficult to shoot things in season. What year did you shoot it, and over what time of year?
We shot it in the spring of 2019. We tried to shoot it in the fall of 2018, but Norbert's schedule did not allow. So we're up there in April and May, early May of 2019. And it's a good thing that a lot of the folks involved with the film hadn't been to Cape Cod before, because I think a lot of them were thinking, oh, it'll be fun. Cape Cod, come on. And what they don't realize is that Cape Cod in April and early May is not Cape Cod in July and August. So we were able to manage through the cold temperatures and the rain. And I'm just happy that the audience, unless you look really carefully, you don't see too much breath coming out of, condensation coming out of people's mouths. So I was happy about that.
We had days in which it was hailing in the morning, and then it was sunny by the time we were shooting outside. We were absolutely blessed as far as the weather went. We had some serious weather angels with us.
So we do have a question which I'm interject here from Amanda. She says, totally superficial, but was the Wicked reference in the movie put in the script because of Norbert?
This is a great question, actually. And it wasn't, because we didn't know that Norbert was in the original cast. The original cast of Wicked. I think that's true. Somebody fact check that. But yeah, no, that was a thing we wrote. I don't honestly remember who even wrote the joke, but like that was a thing we wrote, and then it became a joke afterwards because Norbert was sure that we had written that because of it, and different people in the process were sure of it. But no, it was purely by chance, but super funny.
It is very funny. So often, when you are rolling out your film, with your premiere, you have a cast and crew screening. How did that happen, or has it happened?
Kinda. I mean, we shared the film with the cast and crew, and we did exactly what we're doing now. We sort of had a toast, to them all, and one of these days, I promise you, because one of these days we're going to have a screening in a theater, and we can all congregate and hug each other and have a drink together, because too many people worked too darn hard with little sleep and little money to get this thing where we are today. So it's a must. But yeah, we did a little Zoom thing like this, and it was nice because it was nice to see a lot of their faces, which many of them I had not seen since, close to, 18 months ago.
That's great. Well, to the audience, I just want to say, if you have any questions, just type them into the Q&A. We're happy to take them. We have about 10 more minutes. Oh, here's one question from Sherry. What was it like working with Sherry Otter? She was amazing on SNL.
Sherry O'Terry. Yeah.
Yeah. So, can't read and talk at the same time.
I can't honestly state enough what an experience that was for me, because it was like having. I actually said this on Instagram post, but it's like having a master class in comedic timing. I mean, she's so in control of her own timing. She's so a master of her own delivery that there isn't a minuscule eye motion that she isn't like completely laser targeting. And it was just so fun, and she was just so down. She's just so in, like completely in it. She broke her foot before and she called up Paul and was like, I broke my foot, I don't know what's gonna happen. But then she was automatically like, and the next breath, waiting, like figuring out character excuses for it. She was like, it's because I was climbing over a fence to take pictures of a property that I wasn't supposed to take pictures of. And what we'll do is we'll have flashbacks to me falling off the fence. And we're just sitting there thinking, we're not gonna have you fall off a fence with a broken foot, Sherry. This is not gonna happen. But it was so much fun, and it was especially such a treat for me, just because it was like being an SNL cast member for one little brief moment in my life. I was, we were just joking around, making each other laugh on set, and just made me wish that I had so much more time to just play with her, to make up more funny stuff. It was a blast.
She was so good. And we have a bunch of questions to get to, but one question before we get to them. How many shooting days did you have on this?
We had
22, 23?
Officially we had like 21, I believe. But then I didn't stop, like we would shoot for 6 days a week, and we would do overnights, and then everyone would have off those next days after the shooting overnight. But then Federico and I, the DP, and Jamie, we would go out and shoot B-roll on our off days around the Cape, because we knew that we needed that flavor. We needed some of that fabric of just the Cape and the empty streets and the signs, hanging over the streets. And I love that, like that private. I think it's in the trailer, but there's a little sign that says "Private Thank You" on it, on a beach. And I thought that was just, this is sort of the fabric of the Cape that I really wanted to, convey in the film. And so yeah, we shot, officially we had like 20 or 21 days. We shot a couple of days in New York City of footage we never even used in the film. And I'll tell you, it was a grind though. I mean, that's why I give so much credit to the cast and crew for that schedule. It was a tough one. Yeah.
So Scott asks, what actor played the late father in the family photo?
That actor is my father. His name is Steve Effros. He's I think he's watching right now. Thanks, Dad. All the family.
If you wanted $1 million for the film, yeah.
all the family pictures are actually my family, which is very odd, but at least makes it feel authentic. And we had my dad come up on set one day to take pictures with Norbert. And my dad was he was an absolute champ. They both were just like champs about it. They were so into it. There's a bunch of pictures of them kissing, which we'll use for blackmail for my father at some point, I'm sure. But he was fully on board. But that's my dad.
That's awesome. So Annie asks, what was the most thrilling day you had on set?
Thrilling?
Thrilling.
Annie, have you ever been on set? I'm not sure there are any thrilling days.
I feel like every day was kind of thrilling in that sort of way.
Yeah, no, every day was thrilling. I think what day was thrilling to me was the day we shot the final scene of the two of you on the river there, and that was thrilling to me because you get there and you don't have the boat that you think you're going to have. And I'm saying to myself, we can't find a boat on Cape Cod. I've given you reams of reference of like the type of boat I would like for this shot, for this scene. And you're telling me we can't find someone that will rent us their boat like this? I mean, they're ubiquitous. I think it was like a whaler or Boston, whatever. But then I learned that you don't put your boats in the water at that time of year. So it was a whole education for me. So that day was thrilling because we get there, it's this tiny boat, literally Sweet Norbert is trying to row with oars that are not the same length. Two different sized length oars. So imagine that sort of, it was ridiculous.
And they don't even fit in the eyelets.
They don't fit. The locks are falling out of the boat. It's overcast, like it's going to pour rain. So we shot the whole scene, and they're in a river with currents. So it's like, hey, can you guys get centered on the, on the shot there? Like, we're trying, but we're getting pushed left and right. So long story short, the day looked like it was all going to go to crap. And then the sun opens up, the skies open up, sun comes out, and we reshoot the entire scene in about an hour. And what you see is like one take from each angle. And there you have it. And that's movie making. I mean, that's, you know, that's the sort of thing that you pray for. So that was a thrilling day to me.
I'll tell you another small anecdote of how that day was thrilling for me. Was that at one point we needed a long shot. We needed a long establishing of the whole thing, of the boat out in the water, and there was a boat in the way of the shot, and Paul just decides to go for it, takes his pants off down to his undies, wading out into the water to physically pull the rope to pull this boat out of the shot. So, and it was an amazing thing, because I think everyone on set was like, okay, he's that dedicated. All right, we're in. We're all in now. I mean, it was that was a crazy day. It was a day that nobody thought was gonna work out, and it worked out beautifully.
I'm just happy I was wearing underpants that day.
So we have a question from Andrew. So understanding the title, curious if you went through other options and then what led to Give or Take?
We had a huge list of options that Paul and I went back and forth on for a long time. But I think that Give or Take really, for me, comes from this place of that there's these stories that we tell about ourselves, and there's these stories that we tell about each other, and none of them are set in stone as any of us believe. There's always a give or take about anyone's who anyone is, and we all have to compromise in every relationship that we have with one another, because none of us are perfect. So that's where it comes from for me.
Yeah. Martha asks, any truth to the rumor that you're writing a feature-length Timmy Brothers Water masterpiece?
I tried. I was attempting at one point, and what I realized, it was like, it's more of it's a feature-length thing. Someone approached me about doing it like an episodic. Yeah. I'm like, this doesn't work. It's more of like an 85-minute little feature. I think we could do something.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Timmy Brothers Water was something that Paul directed me in previous to this. That was a send-up of artisanal culture in New York, with two brothers who make artisanal water. And I think what we both, as we started trying to workshop it into something longer, what we both realized was, like, once you know the joke, you kind of know the joke, and it doesn't, you can keep kind of beating that horse, but it's not really going to get any funnier than the first reveal. So sadly, it didn't go. You could still make the water.
Yes. So,
yeah.
Joe, how did you balance the comedic quips, i.e. Go Pats, with an overall seriously themed film? Like, how do you know? And that's a really good question. You have the serious through line, but you add the comedy in there for just like to give the audience some sense of just different direction. But how do you know when comedy is appropriate timing wise in a serious film?
I think it's really important. It's really important to let the audience off the hook, so to speak, when you're sort of building these emotional arcs, and because there's a lot of crying in our movie, right? So for as much crying, you want just as much sort of like humor, and you let the audience breathe a little bit. And I mean, it's something we wrote into the script, and then it's something obviously we have to hone in our edit. But that's exactly it. You just want to let the audience off the hook, because you don't want to keep that, the tension as taut throughout, because then it would be, it's just one note, and so they as I said before, think about the film without like Sherry. I mean, she brings so much love and light to the darn thing, and she's such a relief when when she hits the screen, you're gonna laugh at some point, right? So that was the motivation behind that. And
I think,
it's crucial.
I think that in regards to the balance of humor and sort of serious tone, I agree with everything that Paul said, and you know, and just like the basic truth that just being a human is funny in just as many ways as it is tragic, and so it's just truthful in that way. But I think that the way that you get that balance is first in the writing process and then in the editing process. There were a whole bunch of jokes, more jokes in this thing that were cut out. There were definitely, and there were more serious moments that were even cut down, you know? So it really speaks to the process that that Paul and our editor Mike Rizzo did tirelessly to really to shape this into what it is and get that tone like really dialed in.
I think you guys did a fantastic job. I would say filmmaking is a lot like sculpture. You know, you have to. And the late Gordon Willis, his moniker was "Go Darker." It's like what's unseen, what you take out, it gives the audience a chance to actually put their own sensibility into a film. So I think you did that really well. We have a couple of more questions, and then we're going to kind of have to wrap up. So Shannon asks, were there any changes that had to be made when editing the film due to the pandemic?
No, we were about 99% done with the film prior to the pandemic hitting. So no, I mean, the edit was pretty much set. The only problem was we couldn't really finish like the theatrical color correct and things like that at Technicolor because they were all out of the office. It's one of the upsides of being virtual. We were able to finish the film. Everyone, our audio re-recordist and sound design person, Brian Goodhart, he was able to work from home. Our colorist, Brian Woos at Technicolor, he was able to work at home because we're color correcting and we're mixing for, online, so to speak. So it was a little bit easier as opposed to mixing for, Atmos 7.1 and a color correct that you need to have for projecting a film onto a screen. But no, the edit didn't change at all.
A couple more questions, and I know we could talk for a really long time, so we should have another Q&A. Sarah asks, curious if you intended for your stage dad to be a closet gay versus bisexual, and either way, you just didn't know until after your mom had died. So I think the question is about the dad's sexuality with regard to your character, Jamie. Like, didn't you know, or that he was made gay and not bisexual?
I think that it's a good question. It's something that I've thought of a bit, but I really do believe that he was completely closeted throughout my character's upbringing, for at least the time that he was in the house with Martin as a child, and that if there was anything going on, it was way outside the bounds of what Martin may have known. What the mom may have known, we're not so sure. And is it possible that he was on a spectrum of bisexuality? Sure. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that he, in our imagination of the mom, that was a loving relationship, but it wasn't all the way there. It wasn't all completely truthful to who he was. It was more societal expectations, etc. So yeah, I think that I think there are a few different ways to read it, and I'm not sure that one is necessarily right or wrong. I think that stuff is complicated, and yeah, I think that it's up to the viewer's imagination as well.
And Amanda asks, so what made you decided to do the story turns that you did in the film and could easily have fallen into other movie kind of conventions, but it didn't. And she loved its different spin. And I think, you know, I want to just echo that, which is like, it's a very original story. It's, you do not expect everything that happens in this film.
Yeah, Paul, do you want to jump in, or I know we had some we had a lot of discussions about this, because one of the things that was really important to us was, since we love indie films so much, is to take some of those tropes of going home stories from indie films and just throw them on their head as many times as we could. You know, as soon as we felt like we were falling into some sort of a trope, we wanted to be like, all right, how can we take this and flip it? Or how can we make it seem like it's going to go one way and then turn it the other way? Just because we didn't want it to be like every film, and we wanted to keep people guessing, and we didn't want people ahead of it, because it's easy to get there, because we've all seen the indie where the guy comes home and he falls in love with the girl he never got before, and Sunshine and Roses and all that type of stuff. We didn't want to do those things.
Well, like I said, this is the world premiere. We are thrilled and honored to have it. It will be available for people to watch on the streaming platform until August 1st. It is eligible for an audience award, so after you watch it, vote. There are some stars right next to the film, and the scale is 1 through 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. And I just want to say, you guys, you know, congratulations. You did an amazing job. You should be really happy with the way everything turned out. And I think this film is going to have a long life. And I think we're wishing you nothing but the best. And I'm sure you'll show it at the Wellfleet Drive-In at some point soon.
We have to.
It's going to happen.
We've got to. It'll be so meta. We got to.
Thank you guys so much. You guys have been working so hard, and we are so honored to be here. And everything that the festival has been doing has been so great. And you just have been there for us at every turn, and we really appreciate it. And good luck with the rest of it. We're glad to be the guinea pigs of the Q&A situation here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks again. Really, you've made us feel very special, and considering everything that's going on, you guys have knocked it out of the park. It's just really well done. And so from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And helping us, give our film to the world.
Well, we thank you as well. And there are 187 films on the Woods Hole Film Festival this week. So if you have a pass, do not do anything else. Sit at home and watch films. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys.
Bye.
Bye.